The snow didn't fall, it attacked. The wind didn't whisper, it screamed. And the firewood was gone. Long before central heating, before matches, before comfort, peasants of medieval Europe faced winters that could kill. Days turned gray, nights turned deadly, and every breath froze before it left your lips. Imagine standing there, your family huddled in a mud hut, the walls trembling, the cold seeping through your bones. No wood, no fire, just the sound of wind and the will to live. But somehow they did survive, not with flames, but with ideas. Here are 7 ways they fought the cold and won. The village was buried in snow. Nothing moved. Even the wind seemed tired. Inside the huts, frost crept across the walls, thin white veins of winter. Every breath turned to ice. Every sound was gone. It was like living inside a cold clay oven. No warmth, no comfort, only silence and waiting. Firewood had run out weeks ago. They tried burning straw clothes, even broken furniture, but nothing lasted. When they lit a fire, the smoke stayed trapped inside, choking them before it ever warmed them. Each night colder than the one before. Each morning faces thinner, eyes duller, the kind of cold that steals your will quietly. Then, one farmer noticed something strange. The animal stalls, filthy damp, full of steam, stayed warm longer, not from fire. From the walls, thick, wet, alive with heat. So they started to copy it. Mud, straw, dung mixed together layer after layer. They packed it thick against their walls, sealing every crack. During the day, the sun hit it softly. At night, the mud breathed that heat back out. A living wall, primitive insulation. The earth itself became their blanket. No fire, no smoke, just warmth. From the ground beneath their feet. We build our homes with fiberglass and plastic now. They built theirs with patience and dirt. One uses money, the other wisdom. It wasn't comfort, it was survival. And that quiet warmth that slipped through the mud walls wasn't just heat, it was hope. Earth fire. Night fell heavy over the village. No firelight, no sound, only the wind, whispering through the cracks. Frost crept across the beds like a living thing, biting at every toe, every breath. It was the kind of cold that didn't just freeze your body, it froze your hope. Like camping in a freezer, with no way out. They soon learned a cruel truth. Sleeping alone meant dying. Blankets turned stiff with ice before midnight. Even the straw froze solid. Every family knew if you wanted to see morning, you had to stay close. Very close. So they gathered. Mothers, fathers, children, even the old dog, all huddled together on straw beds. The children were placed in the center, the weak ones protected by the strong. Bodies pressed tight, breath mingled, a living circle pulsing, breathing, fighting the cold together. Their warmth wasn't much, but it was shared, and shared warmth lasts longer. They huddled, they breathed, they lived. We sleep apart now, behind walls, behind screens. We chase comfort, but we lose closeness. They slept together and found survival. Sometimes warmth isn't born from fire. It comes from each other, from heartbeat to heartbeat, from one soul to another. Human heat. Behind every house, there was a pile of rot. Steam rose from it, twisting through the snow like breath from the earth itself. People kept their distance. It stank. It crawled. It was alive, like sleeping beside a trash heap, except it was warm. When the nights grew long and the wind began to scream, even disgust faded. The smell could be ignored. The cold could not. They were running out of choices, and winter doesn't wait. Then someone noticed the compost pile didn't freeze. It smoked. It breathed. It gave off heat. Decay creates life. And life, it seems, creates warmth. So they built shelters beside those mounds. Sometimes they buried their straw beds under the outer layer, half above ground, half inside the compost. The microbes worked through the night, breaking down hay manure and scraps, releasing quiet heat. Nature's heater, no fire needed, no wood to burn, no logs, no matches, just warmth from decay. We burn forests for comfort now. They let the forest rot and lived because of it. Where we destroy, they cooperated. Where we took, they listened. They trusted the earth's rhythm, and in return, nature kept them alive. Sometimes warmth doesn't come from fire or sun, but from the endless cycle beneath our feet, heat of life. The fields were frozen solid. The ground cracked under every step. Even the stones split open from the frost. The cold didn't just fall from the air, it rose from below. It climbed up through your bed, through your bones, through your breath, like lying down on a cold kitchen floor, waiting for morning to come. The peasants quickly learned cold doesn't only come from the wind, it seeps from the ground beneath you, quiet and patient. A thief that steals warmth in your sleep. Then came a simple discovery. They noticed that stones once heated by sunlight or by coals stayed warm for hours even after the fire was gone. The earth had its own battery, and they learned how to charge it. During the day, they'd gather smooth river stones or flat rocks from the fields. They'd place them near faint fires or under what little sunlight broke through the clouds. At night, those same stones were wrapped in cloth or buried under straw beds. They released their hidden heat slowly, like a sleeping heart still beating under the earth. A quiet miracle under the blanket. Cold night, warm stones, a small miracle beneath your feet. We use electric blankets now. They used gravity patience and the sun. We plug into walls. They plugged into nature. Sometimes warmth doesn't come from what's above you. It comes from what's beneath. Stone fire. Every barn breathed. Cows, goats, chickens, all alive, all steaming in the cold air. When the wind howled outside, the animals didn't flinch. They chewed. They slept. They breathed warmth. Inside those wooden walls, the air shimmered with life. But the peasants froze. Their huts were colder than the barns, their hands stiff, their breath white. And someone tired, desperate, realized the truth. The animals weren't the ones in need of saving. They were the saviors. So they moved in. Families carried their straw beds into the barns. They built small lofts above the stalls, simple planks, a layer of hay, a thin blanket. Below them, the animals breathed in rhythm, each exhale rising like invisible smoke filling the air with gentle heat. The people slept to the sound of hooves, shifting of steady breathing, a lullaby made of life itself. The barn stank, but it was warm, and they lived. We keep animals now for milk, for meat, for wool. They kept them for warmth. And in that warmth, a strange peace was born, a bond between man and beast deeper than survival. It wasn't comfort, it was companionship. Not luxury, but loyalty. A heartbeat against another heartbeat. Beast heat. There were no synthetic fabrics back then. No nylon. No fleece. No fancy jackets. Just wool, linen, and instinct. When the blizzards came, clothes froze stiff. Water turned to ice between the threads. Every breath filled the air with tiny needles of frost. Single layers failed. Cold crept in through every seam. But the peasants watched the shepherds the way they layered. They noticed something. Wool stayed warm even when wet. Linen stayed dry even when cold. Together, they worked like magic. So they started layering. Linen first soft against the skin, pulling sweat away. Then wool, thick, rough, but strong. A tunic, a cloak. Air trapped between each layer, forming a barrier of warmth. Simple, natural, brilliant. Like ancient Gore-Tex woven by hand, powered by instinct. Dry skin, warm core. A peasant's armor against winter. Modern technology didn't invent layering. It only rediscovered what survival had already taught. They didn't have science. They had observation and patience. We buy warmth. They built it thread by thread. No zippers, no brands, just wisdom sewn into every stitch. Simple, practical, timeless, wool wisdom. When the wind howled, they went down, down into the earth, down where the storm couldn't find them. It was like hiding in a basement during a storm, but older, darker, quieter. Above ground was death. Below, maybe warmth. The peasants had learned to listen not just to the weather, but to the ground itself. They knew the earth never froze completely. Beneath the surface, even in the cruelest winter, it held a steady heartbeat about 50 degrees. While blizzards screamed and tore at the world above the belly of the earth, stayed calm, warm, silent, constant. So they dug. Root cellars at first for potatoes, turnips, apples. Then deeper, rooms carved from clay and stone. Walls lined with straw. Low ceilings that caught the heat from their breath and held it close. No windows, no fire, just the pulse of the ground and the sound of breathing in the dark. Up above, the wind howled like a wild beast. Down below, they waited, patient, alive. The cold passed over them, never through them, because they trusted something deeper than fire. They trusted the earth. No windows, no fire, just silence and survival. And when spring finally came, they climbed back up, back into the light, carrying a warmth that no winter could take away. Earth's cradle. They didn't have power grids, no heaters, no thermostats, no firewood stacked in sheds. They had mud, animals, stones, and courage. And somehow they made it through. 7 tricks, 7 proofs of human instinct, each one carved from hunger, fear, and the will to live another day. They didn't fight nature. They listened to it. They watched the frost, the soil, the animals, and learned their language. That's what survival really is. Not strength, not fire, but harmony. We build walls now higher, warmer, thicker, but the old ones built understanding. They lived close to the ground, close to each other. They knew that warmth doesn't only come from flame. It comes from life, mud, breath, stone, wool, earth. Each one a whisper of the same truth that warmth was never just about heat. It was about connection. Fireless. Fire.